Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a drama from Greece, Greek language English subs, released in the year 2016, directed by Argyrios Papadimitriopoulos, and this film is called Suntan. So Suntan is set in a very picturesque Greek island that is a tourist haven. You've got a lot of people who come here each year, and this is basically the source of income for this community. In this community, not a lot of people live on the island, but one of the people who does live there is a newly introduced doctor who's a middle-aged overweight man who's very lonely. So he's longing for someone in his life, but until then, he passes the time by dealing with the patients and becoming familiarised with the community. So one day his life changes when he comes across a patient named Anna. Now Anna is young and beautiful, she's got wild friends, she lives a very wild lifestyle, and that's something that is very foreign to this doctor, but pretty soon the two of them strike up a little bit of a connection. It's a very innocent connection, but unfortunately the doctor takes it for something a lot more than it is. So the more that the doctor hangs out with Anna and her friends, the more this deep-seated sort of obsession is coming to the front, and the more it's ignored by Anna, the further it develops into a point where it's past the point of no return. So what happens that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Suntan. I thought this was a very interesting film, and it's a movie that really does give you the insight into what happens when the popular world clashes with the lonely world. And unfortunately the lonely world can be a lot more destructive than the popular world, and I thought the pressure cooker sort of parallel worlds that this movie actually depicts is they coincide with each other right up until the end, where it all explodes to basically something that is completely out of control. And so the movie does a great job at actually symbolising both worlds in a way where you've got the cinematography that is very picturesque, beaches, a lot of beauty, a lot of beautiful people, there's a lot of nudity. It's basically everything that belongs to the world of Anna. And then you've got the loneliness, the ugliness, you've got the dark sort of quality that this doctor is living that symbolises the loneliness. And so when those two worlds are actually together, you know that it's a pressure cooker, you know that it's going to explode, and because that loneliness and the ugliness is so more destructive than the beauty, you know that it's not going to end well for Anna. And so the doctor, he starts off as very sympathetic, he starts off as a guy that you could actually befriend. He's a guy who's very shy, doesn't really have a lot of people skills, but Anna, on the other hand, is completely different. She is she's in a world where it's all about making love to each other. Yeah, she basically got people around her 24/7. And so when she's trying to introduce the doctor into her world, all of a sudden the signals that she's giving off, he's actually looking a lot more into it, is because he's lonely. He's actually wanting someone with him. And so instead of just one night stands, which Anna has, he wants something so much more. And so because there's so much misunderstanding between the two of them, you know that this friendship is actually going to spiral into something that is way out of control. And so the movie does have a very creepy atmosphere, but I thought the psychological sort of themes that the movie depicts was devastating. This is a very devastatingly depressing film, and it's down to the fact that Makis Papadimitriou, the main character, the actor who plays the main character, does such a good job at giving you someone who's not forced. He's very subtle in what he's doing, and I thought it was very cringeworthy. It's very awkward. At the start of the film, the awkward behaviour between him and Anna and her friends was very funny, but then it starts to develop into something that you start to think, okay, well, this is getting a little bit out of hand. Anna needs to stop this right away, but because she's oblivious to the world of the doctor, and the doctor is oblivious to her world, you know that it's a disaster waiting to happen. It's a train wreck. You know that it's going to hit hit a wall, and you want it to stop it hitting a wall, but you can't, so you just have to brace for impact, and you have to pray to God that that impact is not going to be as bad as the movie's actually making it out to be. So it does create suspense in that way, and I thought the suspense wouldn't have been able, if it wasn't for the performance of the Makis Papadimitriou and the performance of the actress who plays Anna. I thought they played very well with each other, but even though they were friends, I never thought as though it was a genuine friendship. It was basically a friendship full of misunderstandings, full of her misleading him, but in a way where you don't really feel a lot of criticism with this woman, because she's a lot younger than this doctor, and so the doctor is looking for different things to what Anna is looking for. And so there's a lot of full frontal nudity in this film, so if you are easily offended, I would stay away. But I really like the way, as I said, you've got the picturesque beaches, you've got the beautiful young people up against the world that was completely different to this doctor and the darkness that he was actually living in. So the movie does slowly creep on you. It does slowly start to become more and more intense, up into a very very European ending. Now, I did have a problem with the ending, but I also like the ending in the way that it's not a stereotypical ending. It's not something that completely ties up loose ends, and so that's something that a lot of people are not going to like. But I like those endings, but I thought the ending in this film, it could have been a little bit better to really punch home the themes that the movie was depicting, and that's ultimately my problem, is that this is a good film. This is a fine film, but unfortunately it stops there. It doesn't really take to the heights that I thought the movie had the potential to actually do. Is that the movie, right at the end, there is a point where I thought if you actually went a different way, it could have hit you with so much more impact, and the cautionary tale that the movie wants to depict could have actually been hit home a lot harder than it actually was. It felt like the movie was bracing itself for a heavy landing, but then all of a sudden the plane gains control and it just slowly lands, and it's basically a very soft landing. And so I thought, okay, well, once again, it's something to think about, because as I said, overall what happens is very disturbing, but I just thought the punch right at the end is what was needed to elevate it to a very theatrical film. This is not a movie that's going to appeal to everybody. A lot of people might believe that this movie is very boring, but if you're prepared to look under and look into the deeply disturbing themes that the movie depicts, I think it will actually come through a lot stronger. But just the unfortunate thing is that there are qualities to this movie that didn't really fit. There were moments that I thought were very obvious, and some of the moments were very in your face, and I thought it needed to be a little bit more subtle. And then you've got the problem of the fact that it just doesn't have the X factor. It doesn't have enough quality to actually elevate it past something that it basically treads water. It's not really going up into the sky. It's not illuminating the sky, and that's what I think the movie really needed, is because it had the recipe for that. And I thought that if it was actually executed much better, it could have been a much more thought-provoking and a much more higher impact experience. But having pushed all that aside, fantastic performances, very good cinematography, and a lot of psychological issues that you'll think about, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Suntan 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.